I tried so hard and fell so far, but in the end, it didn't even matter. Hello and welcome to the next episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies with special guests Marie and Tim. This is the podcast where all three of us went and saw a movie at a local Regal cinema theater, and now we're going to talk about it in the parking structure, in Matt's on the pilot, right after the movie, giving our gut reaction. And we're going to tell you such things as, should you see this movie? Should you not see this movie? Can you bring your family? Should you bring a date? Should you go by yourself? Should you snack, nap, or craft? Do you need to pay attention to every single detail, or can you just slack off and let the world slide you by? I am Todd Dover.
And I'm Matt Malloy, and yes, we are here. We are here on Memorial Day weekend, the weekend of blockbuster movies being released, and we saw one of them, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. That's right, guys, The Final Reckoning. Will it be the final reckoning? Will it be the final Mission Impossible? We can discuss. However, first, Tim, are there famous people in this movie? I think there are.
There are quite a few, actually. And of course, we can't say Mission Impossible without Tom Cruise. He's the star. It's his franchise, and he's definitely the star. You don't need to explain what he's been in. He's been a movie star a long time. And a lot of returning cast members as well. We have Hayley Atwell returns as her character Grace, who we met in Dead Reckoning. And she's, of course, famous for her MCU days as Peggy Carter. Ving Rhames is back. He's been in this franchise since number one. His character Luther, the computer tech, is back again, as is Simon Pegg as Benji, who joined in number 3. And then we had some returning smaller characters, including Angela Bassett shows up as the president, and she had been the CIA director in a previous movie. The guy playing Kittredge, not a household name, but Henry Czerny, I think is how you say it, is back as Kittredge, who was in Dead Reckoning, and he was also in the first Mission Impossible as the CIA director. Also returning from Dead Reckoning is Palm Clementieff. She was the assassin who was originally working for the bad guy, and then Tom Cruise's character saved her life. She was originally Mantis in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Is probably her most famous role. Esai Morales is back as Gabriel, who's the villain of this movie and the previous movie. And then we had some small parts filled in by bigger actors. We had I think he was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs in this movie. It was Nick Offerman, famously of the Parks and Recreation TV show, as well as many other movies and TV shows over the years. And from Ted Lasso, Hannah Waddingham shows up as the aircraft carrier. She was the head admiral of it. And just lots of different little character actors showing up in this as well that aren't household names. But this was a very big movie with a lot of big people in it.
Yes, it was a big movie. So, in case you've been living under a rock for the last 30 years, Mission Impossible movies are basically spy movies where impossible missions are undertaken by the Impossible Mission Force, led by Ethan Hunt, played by Tom Cruise. And, there's been, this is the 8th? 7th?
7th, I think?
7th.
No, this is the 8th.
This is the 8th, okay. So we've come a long way. In this particular film, it's a direct sequel to the previous film, and things were left unresolved in that film. But basically what you need to know is that in the previous movie, there's an important key with 2 pieces. And in that last movie, Tom Cruise gets his hand on that key. And so this movie is all about him and his group of IMFers, I guess, his team of helpers, all working together to figure out what that key unlocks, where that is, and get the goods out of whatever that place is, and use them to fight against a rogue AI, who's also in the first movie, called the Entity, who's basically grown in power and is going to take over the world and kill everyone. So, that's Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. And let's get down to start talking about it. Todd, what's your final reckoning of this movie?
Well played. Well, I would like to start by saying I'm a huge fan of these movies. I'm a big Mission Impossible fan. And while I'm going to say this is not the best one, I thought it was, I'm going to teetering on okay to good. And the biggest problem with this movie, well, let me start with the good stuff. Okay. Plenty of good acting, plenty of like just incredible stunts and cinematography that just draw you in. I mean, like if you've watched the last like 3 or 4, the cinematography and the stunts just keep getting crazy. Like, and kudos to crazy old Tom Cruise who wants to do that stuff and hang off of a plane and make it look as real as possible because he's the actual one doing it. Like, that's great. And he runs a lot. That's a given if you're going to see these type of movies. I liked the dissection of his character over these last 2 movies. And kind of like the last 2 movies have made you be very like, think of the old ones, look at all the stuff, see the evolution of his character. But I like how, because I've thought this since the one before Dead Reckoning, that I was like,
Fallout.
Yeah, that Ethan Hunt is just a gambler. Like, he is not sure about anything. He's gambling all the time. And while he has the skills and stuff like that to make his gamble pay off, like these 2 movies, because they pretty much go hand in hand, like really dissect his character, and like it's just all that comes out. Like his bosses several times are like, you're just a gambler. You double down all the time. Like, and it works out for you. And at no point does he deny it. Like, it's just like, yeah, that's true. I do that. Like, and I liked that. I liked that it's almost like his greatest flaw is his greatest strength. Like, and I think the dissection of his character over these last 2 movies was pretty good, except for at some point they decided to sacrifice story for bigger stunts. Like, it was like, let's move on to the bigger stunt. We don't really care if the story pans out or how it pans out, really. One of the first things you learn in this movie is that there's a mole somewhere, like in the organization that has been feeding Tom's enemy his deepest secrets and stuff like that. And that never gets talked about again. It's like one of the first things you find out in this movie. When one of the bad guys is like, I know everything that's going on because you got a person in, like, I got a person on the inside. And then it never gets talked about. Like, it's just like forgotten. Like, you're like, okay, I guess, sure. And there were there's a lot of consequences on the line of this movie, which makes sense for a big movie like this. But then, like, even some of the consequences don't get talked about anymore. Like, stuff just got dropped along the way. So as far as story goes, this is not a tight story. It is all over the place. Do you need to see the other movies? Probably. Like, I would say you're going to be pretty lost. And one of my biggest complaints is that this guy, Gabriel, who they made such an effort to insert that he is part of Tom's past, and like there's this shrouded thing in mystery, and they don't ever go into it. Like, you get flashbacks real quick, like you get like little like, there was a death and maybe Ethan got blamed, but like you got to put it all together, and they just don't ever talk about it. And it was like, why did you even link those 2 characters in the first place? Like, if you're not going to go into detail about it and work it out, and even have like some form of like, there is an epic showdown, but it's really not a normal epic showdown. It's like, why link those 2 characters? It didn't make sense that they wanted to dive in like that. They never fleshed it out because there was just so much in this movie they had to cover. And that's my biggest complaint, is that story got dropped because we needed to move on. I don't know, because Crazy Tom wanted to get on a plane. I don't know. Like, he wanted to do this next crazy stunt, and it sacrificed story for that. Sound, music, all on point. Like I said, cinematography, incredible. Like, if you liked any of these movies, you're going to see this movie, and you're probably going to enjoy it. But it does have its drawbacks. So, should you see this movie? I would say, if you're a fan of the franchise, then absolutely. There's no reason to not see this movie. And it's also, even if you wouldn't know anything, I would say you could still get lost in this movie with just the stunts and the cinematography. I mean, all that is just top notch. So, I would say this is a movie we're seeing. You're not going to have the full experience if you haven't seen the others. So if you haven't seen the others, you've been living under a rock. It's time to get out from under that rock and watch these movies. I mean, maybe there's other important stuff to do too. But you should see these movies and then see this movie. But I would say see it. It's going to get a goodish score for me, but it's not going to be the best one of the bunch. But I do think this is, on a whole, this is probably one of the more solid franchises that have exceeded like 3 movies that just are good. So on a whole, you know, I'm probably going to buy the box set. So that's going to be me. I say see it. It definitely has its flaws, and I definitely don't like how they just kind of sacrificed Rebecca Ferguson for Hayley Atwell. Like, that whole stream of story makes no sense to me. It was like, we're going to get rid of this person who's a love interest in a last movie, and then we're going to introduce this other person last movie. It was like they just swapped out actresses. Like, it just was weird to me, and I don't know if that's a Tom Cruise thing or what, but it didn't play well with me. But yeah, I say see it. It certainly wasn't a waste of my time, I felt, and even though it's pretty long, much longer than it needed to be. Like, there was a point where the movie was winding down, I thought. We were getting to the end game, and I was like, wait a minute, we haven't even had any planes. And that was all over the trailer. Yeah. And then we get another 45 minutes of planes and action, stuff like that. So maybe you should bring a blanket and take a couple of minute nap here and there to the movie, because it's too long. You cannot make a movie this long and it be like stellar and amazing. It's just way too long for people to sit around and watch a movie. So, all right, that's me. Tim?
Yes, as a fellow fan of this franchise, thinking I especially, I'd say about 3, it hit its stride, and I think 3, 4, 5, and 6 are just some of the best action movies ever made. And then Dead Reckoning and Final Reckoning here, which were originally meant to be a part 1 and 2, and then part 1 did okay, but not as well as the other movies. And this movie does reek of, we got to tinker some stuff because Dead Reckoning didn't do as well as we thought.
A little bit of desperation.
And so let's mess up some of what we built in order to make a bigger action piece, or not sure what the thought process was, but it felt like a movie that had different versions. Because I agree with you that the story at times was not connecting things, and some threads that were started in Dead Reckoning were left behind, especially that one about Tom's flashback, the thing that got him into the agency. We've only seen 2 flashes of that. He's never talked about it. It's never been mentioned other than with this Gabriel character. And then they don't really give you anything else. And that feels like that's super important to what Ethan Hunt is. So why are we just learning about it? And why are we not actually learning about it? So I agree with you that the story seemed to get mixed up in this one, because instead of connecting it as directly as they maybe originally did, they reshot some stuff or changed some stuff around in order to make a somewhat separate movie, although they definitely were connected very much so, because this felt like part 2, even though they didn't want to call it that. And I did appreciate they did a lot of callbacks, a lot of flashback footage to kind of connect some things that you didn't know were connected to this movie. That stuff I appreciated. The MacGuffin in number 3, which was never explained what it was, is brought back in this as an important piece, and I appreciated that touch. And I feel like there was some thought put into this. It's not like this movie was careless or like one of those, soulless sequels where they're just pumping out the same stuff. Like, you can tell they were trying to craft something here, even if they sacrificed some of the connectivity of the movie. But the action scenes are amazing. They're all tense and well done, and there are stakes in this. Some characters may or may not make it, and that's been established in previous movies. And all that's great. All the acting is what you expect from these movies. So I'm with you, Todd, in that I still like this movie. I do have my drawbacks as well, but it fits this franchise the way it is, and it's what I expect when I see Mission Impossible. I also agree it's not among the top tier of this franchise, but it's still worth seeing, especially if Dead Reckoning left you hanging and you want to see what happens. You kind of got to see this. And I agree, this is a movie theater movie. This is, big sweeping sets, and, there's a plane sequence that absolutely would lose some of its value on a smaller screen, I think. There's some of that stuff is just movie theater the way it's supposed to look and feel and scope. I could see something like this in IMAX would be amazing. So I think this is the kind of movie that you go to the movies for. And this franchise has proven that over and over. Even at its lowest point, it was still a pretty crazy movie with great visuals, and it's like, even though its lowest point is not a bad movie, it's just maybe not as great as the others because it set such a high standard. So I do recommend this movie as well. I'm going to give it a pretty high score. Maybe not as high as, like I said, the apex of the franchise, which to me was 3 through 6. But I'm definitely a fan of these movies, and while I was prepared for this to maybe be the final one, we're not sure. I would say the ending, without giving anything away, isn't clear.
Fair.
Marie?
Well, I love these movies.
Yes.
And I always have for all the 30 years. I loved the stunts and the cinematography of this movie. I thought they were really well done, and like you said, they were tense and dramatic, and that was a lot of fun. I really loved the retrospective, the memories, it was a little bit of a memorial to the franchise, going through scenes from all the movies. That was really fun to see those, because I forget what everybody looked like 30 years ago. So that was fun. For a while, I thought the acting was really poor. I didn't love the characters. But then I realized these were all really famous, wonderful actors, and we all know they can act. So that meant the script was bad. So I didn't love the plot. I didn't love the writing. I think the actors did the best they could with what they were given, but it was more like they planned out the stunts and the sequence of the action and then wrote a story around that. And like you guys said, some connections were lost, some storylines were dropped, questions were not answered, but it was good, and it made me jump a couple of times, and it kept my attention, and even though I made assumptions about the ending, you still really weren't sure which way it was going to go,
Right.
Which is what it's all about. So it's definitely a movie for me that I'm glad I saw on the big screen. And we'll see what happens, if there's another one or not.
Matt, take us home.
Well, let's go home. All right. So you guys have covered a lot of the territory. I'm not going to rehash everything, but I'll say a few things. One, I thought the beginning of the movie was they were trapped into a slow start, because they had to give a whole bunch of exposition in case you didn't remember or haven't seen the previous movie.
Yep.
So we had to explain about the AI and these keys and where the keys came from, and all, basically a quick summary, not
Previously
so quick.
on.
30 years of Ethan Hunt.
Right.
Go over it all.
Previously on Mission Impossible.
So that was a bit of a slow start, but then, man, when we got into it, we were on the edge of the seat pretty much the whole time, and that was great. I enjoyed this little checkout from the real world and into Mission Impossible land. That was good. There was a couple of times though with how things unfolded with the stunts and so on and so forth. Like, the stunts were amazing, don't get me wrong, but there's one particular stunt involving diving where they're like, okay, if you do this or this thing or this other thing,
They really spelled it out.
this is what's going to happen to you. You're going to die.
And they've done that before. To be fair, they've done that before in these movies, and usually the consequences are never as bad as they say.
Right. So that always takes me out of it a little bit. I'm like, why did you go through the effort of spelling everything out if you're just going to do it anyway and everything's going to be
Also, if you're not the person diving, can you be in a decompression chamber?
It's a good question.
Yes.
One that I had as well.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things like that it's like, well, wait a second, what's going on here?
Right.
absolutely looked incredible. Like,
Yes. Oh, yeah,
the
I
whole
mean, like
sequence
the
was-
entire cinematography of those scenes of the diving stuff, especially
And
when he's
in this-
at the ice,
in
was
this-
just looked beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you were filled with how? Like,
Right.
like,
Right.
what?
Yeah. So so that did take me out of it a little bit, and I agree. The story was kind of a bit jumping around. Still there with the suspense and the edge of your seatness, but the actual story that we're trying to follow was a little bit hard at times to connect the dots. Yeah, I enjoyed my time watching this movie. Like I said, a little bit slow start. There were some things that took me out kind of right at the end, which is unfortunate. But overall, a positive experience for me. So I say see it.
Fair. Well, getting down to it, how many dead Emilio Estevez's would you give this movie? Which was one of my favorite things, is that they showed his death like 3 times. And it was like, his death in the first movie always stood out to me.
Yeah,
Like,
that
it
was a
was the
pretty-
most shocking, surprising one. And so I was happy to see it 3 more times. Like, obviously 0 being the worst because, you know, there's no dead Emilios, and what's the fun in that? And then 5 being the best, because then you can watch that scene 5 times and feel 5 times as good, like I do.
Like you do.
Matt?
Well, I'm going to go with 3 Emilio Estevez's deaths out of 5. Like I said, I had a good time. There were a couple things that took me out, but overall, solid effort, solid chapter in this franchise.
Nice. Marie?
I'm gonna go with 3.25.
Oh, get that quarter in there.
I like the stunts. And you know my metric. If I don't get distracted by real life during a movie, it's
It kept you engaged.
a decent movie. Yeah, it kept me engaged.
Tim?
I am at a solid 3.5. I have, like I said, the movies I mentioned are all in the 4s. This one falls a little short from the things we brought about, but again, the stunts and the action are just so incredible, and the way they build tension is always excellent, and so it still deserves a high rating. So 3.5 for me.
Fair. You know, the measuring stick for this movie was No Time to Die. Because I
Correct.
was like,
Yep.
what a phenomenal wrap up to that franchise.
Yep.
And so that was the measuring stick to me. I was like, can you
That was a long
land
movie
this
too.
plane better than Bond did? And I would say it definitely didn't.
I agree with that.
Not that I disliked this movie, but
No,
that
no,
was
I-
what I was thinking. I was like, the last thing that I can remember of a franchise that finished that I was like incredible
Yes.
was the last Bond movie. So knowing that, I can't remember who said it. Maybe Matt. I'm in a solid 3. I enjoyed myself. It was a little bit too long. I wish they landed the plane better. Even though it was a long movie, there were points where I was like, man, we're still dealing with planes right now. But
Yeah.
at
me
no
too.
point was
Yeah.
I like, wrap this up. I just was like,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
still on the stunt. Like,
Yes.
oh my gosh. Like,
Tom, stop it.
How many weeks did it take them to make
yeah.
an hour of plane ride?
So
Half
it,
the
it
time,
tried.
as
It
that
tried.
as that sequence played out, I'm going, God damn it, Tom.
Yeah.
Like, stop hanging.
It tried. It just tried to include too much. It was like, let's do a new story. Let's do nostalgia. Let's do crazy stunts. It was like, it just was way too much.
New love interest.
Yeah, new love interest, which just bothered me to no end. Like, there
It
was
really
just
does.
no point to the, and he doesn't even like. At no point does he even mention the woman who died. What's her name? Rebecca Ferguson's character from.
Ilsa.
Yeah. At no point is she mentioned besides the
Also,
flashback thing.
she
He
wasn't-
doesn't say
She
like
wasn't
anything.
really shown in the flashback either.
Yeah. Like
That was interesting.
it just was weird. So solid 3. It's got some problems, but it is like the Mission Impossible movies that you come to expect. Like, it wasn't the best, but you got everything you come for these movies. And so I really hope they don't do a new one, or if they do continue this, it's like someone else. We're following someone else in the IMF. Mission Impossible does not have to be Ethan Hunt.
It was always about the team.
Like,
on the
we
show.
can move on. Like, if you want to make another Mission Impossible movie, you can. It can be a new team. Like, I know that's scary to do it without Tom, but let's take some chances. Like, honestly, what was her name? Plum, whatever. Like, I would follow a movie if she was the person we followed. I'd be like, all right, IMF, let's do it. Like,
Paris is her character.
yeah.
Right?
So, all right, yeah, that's it.
That's it. Okay. Last thoughts?
I wanted to mention Esai Morales, who plays Gabriel. He is the most cackling cartoon villain of this series.
That's true.
I will say, while villains have been hit or miss in this series, he went all in on I am evil because I'm evil, and with ha 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 and all that kind of stuff. Whereas most of the other villains were just
a lot of slow chuckle,
cold or calculating, which I thought was an interesting acting choice.
Look, we're never going to get Philip Seymour Hoffman anymore, which was the best Mission Impossible villain to ever exist.
He was so good, but it was just interesting that they, after all these movies of kind of serious or sinister or whatever, they went with a cackling, rolling his mustache kind of bad guy.
I will say, the other big negative to this movie, I feel, is that in a day and age where you cannot digitally hide, a lot of people hid from an all-knowing AI pretty effectively, and I don't know how you accomplish that.
Yeah.
Especially when they were in major cities. Like, how did you take a walk down the street and you were pinged? Like, so.
It's the magic of movies, Todd.
I guess so. Like, I was like,
Movie
they made
magic.
it. They really pumped.
They are the best
in the
spies in the
first
world,
movie
Todd.
that you cannot hide from this thing. It is, and then it was like, we got a lot of people hiding.
Yes.
Doesn't seem that hard,
A
actually.
lot of hiders.
Like, maybe the algorithm or whatever is like, if you just put on sunglasses, it's like, whoa, who's that? I can't follow who that is now.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I choose to believe, is that this thing is supposed to be all-knowing, but it's just a big facade.
Or it's the
Can't recognize you. You put on a fake mustache, and it's like,
or
well,
it's-
that's obviously
or
not
it's-
Ethan Hunt.
Or it's the lazy storytelling of, well, it wants you to do this, so it's gonna let you.
Yeah, there
Which
was
they
a
relied
lot of
on a few
like,
times.
yeah, there was a lot of like premonition type stuff going on, and I was like, what? All right, I'm
It is
done
written.
trailing. Yeah, it is written.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, where we saw Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning. We gave it an average score of 3.1875 Emilio Estevez's deaths out of 5.
Emilio!
Which is decent. It's above average, and I think we would all say go see this in the theater because it's a nice big movie. And thanks for listening to this podcast and all other podcasts that we put out. No thanks to listen to other podcasts that we don't put out.
Yeah, come on.
Forget about
Don't
that.
waste your time.
Just subscribe to us,
Correct.
like, message us, do whatever. All the podcast stuff,
All the things.
And we will see you next time.
Da 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 da
Da da
da da da.
da da da.